Across the deserts of Arabia, in the shadow of Persia's fire temples, and in the hidden valleys of India, whispers of witchcraft have lingered for thousands of years. This is a world of forbidden rites and mystical powers, where witches were not only feared, but sometimes revered. Here we find the ancient art of sorcery in Mesopotamia, where spells were etched into clay to summon spirits. Here we meet the Djinn of Arabia, fire-born beings bound or unleashed by magic. Here we uncover the secrets of Persian Magi, whose rituals blurred the line between religion and witchcraft. And here too, in South Asia, witches and shamans wielded power over spirits, curses, and healing rites that shaped entire cultures. Tonight, we journey into the forbidden heart of Asia and the Middle East, a realm where witchcraft was never just superstition, but a force woven into the very fabric of life and death. When we peel back the layers of history to the world's first great civilizations, Sumer, Akkad, Babylon, we find that witchcraft was not a shadow lurking in the margins. It was everywhere. It breathed through clay tablets, whispered in the chants of priests, and haunted the darkest fears of kings and commoners alike. The earliest spells were not written on parchment nor carved into stone temples. They were pressed onto soft clay, incantations etched in cuneiform, preserved for thousands of years. Some tablets spoke of healing, protective charms to drive away sickness, prayers to restore balance between humans and the divine. Others were far darker, curses designed to twist fate, to strike enemies with blindness, madness, or death. And here, in the cradle of civilization, we find a fascinating divide. There were the Asu, the healers, men and women who used plants, prayers, and sacred rites to cure ailments. They were respected, guardians of health and order. But then there were the Kasapu, sorcerers, feared manipulators of unseen forces. While the Asu sought harmony, the Kasapu wielded chaos. Their rituals were meant to bend spirits, to bind demons, or to cast ruin on rivals. Yet, even the most powerful kings feared one thing above all, the evil eye. That cold, lingering stare, believed to curse crops, families, even dynasties. To defend against it, priests and sorcerers devised elaborate rituals, burning incense, burying protective amulets, reciting sacred hymns under the cover of night. One Mesopotamian tablet describes a charm where a figurine of the enemy is buried, cursed, and symbolically destroyed. The fate of the effigy believed to fall upon the living person. Here we see the roots of a truth that echoes through centuries. Witchcraft was never simply good or evil. It was a mirror of human intent, healing or harm, blessing or curse, all woven together in the clay-bound world of Mesopotamia. And from these ancient lands of the Tigris and Euphrates, the whispers of sorcery would travel, shaping myths, religions, and fears across Asia and the Middle East. From the fertile lands of Mesopotamia, we journey eastward into the empire of Persia, where sorcery took on a new face under the shadow of fire temples and divine dualities. Here rose the Magi, priestly figures whose very name would echo across centuries, later remembered as the wise men of Christian tradition. But the Magi were far more than simple keepers of ritual flame. They stood at the intersection of religion and sorcery, guardians of cosmic order who could bless but also transgress. Their chants, their sacrifices, their secret rites were said to open doors between the seen and unseen. Within the framework of Zoroastrianism, the universe itself was locked in a struggle. On one side, Ahura Mazda, Lord of Light, Truth, and Creation. On the other, Angra Mainyu, the destructive spirit, darkness, and deceit. This eternal battle shaped every perception of witchcraft in Persia. A healer who invoked the purity of fire, who prayed to Ahura Mazda for strength, was seen as righteous. But one who reached into the shadows, who summoned spirits, attempted to bend fate, or courted the influence of Angra Mainyu, was condemned. These were the forbidden rites whispered of in secret, the kind of rituals that blurred the line between priest and sorcerer. Ancient texts speak of charms to ward off the devas, malevolent spirits of chaos. Yet the same rituals could be twisted, reversed, to call upon those very demons for personal gain. Here lay the danger. The Magi, who were supposed to maintain balance, were also rumored to manipulate destiny itself. Some accused them of astrological sorcery, reading the heavens not for divine wisdom, but for power over men's fates. And it is from this Persian worldview, this clash of light and darkness, of divine order and infernal corruption, that later civilizations drew inspiration. The Judeo-Christian notion of a cosmic devil, of angels versus demons, carries shadows of Zoroastrian duality. Even the very idea of forbidden magic being linked to rebellion against the divine can be traced back to these Persian roots. Thus, the Magi stood as paradox, holy men and sorcerers, protectors and transgressors. In them, we glimpse the dual face of witchcraft, the promise of divine connection, and the peril of damnation. From Persia, these beliefs would ripple outward, shaping not only religions but the very fabric of how magic, sorcery, and demonic influence were understood for millennia. From the fire temples of Persia, the trail of sorcery leads us further south and west into the scorching deserts of Arabia. Here, under endless skies and shifting sands, another force of the unseen held dominion, the Djinn. Long before Islam, Arab tribes told of these beings, creatures of smokeless fire, neither human nor angel, but something in between. They were tricksters, shapeshifters, and predators of the night. Djinn could appear as animals, vanish into whirlwinds, or whisper madness into the hearts of men. To some, they were guardians of hidden treasures. To others, they were spirits of ruin and chaos. Yet humans, ever daring, sought ways to command them. This is where the kahins, the soothsayers, and seers of pre-Islamic Arabia rose to power. They claimed to hear voices carried by the Djinn, voices that revealed the future, guided tribes in war, and offered protection against rivals. But with every favor granted came the risk of enslavement. For to bargain with a Djinn was to invite a force that could never truly be mastered. The line between witch and kahin was razor thin. A healer might whisper charms invoking the Djinn for aid. A sorcerer, however, might attempt darker bargains, binding spirits through blood offerings, or summoning them in desolate places where few dared to tread. Fear and fascination were inseparable. One man's protector was another man's curse. Then came the rise of Islam, and with it, a profound shift. The Quran did not deny the existence of Jinn, it confirmed them. Yet, it drew a sharp line between faith and sorcery. The practice of sihr, magic, was condemned, seen as a rebellion against God's will. Sorcery became not merely dangerous, but sinful, an act tied to disbelief and corruption. And yet, the temptation of forbidden knowledge lingered. In Surah Al-Baqarah, the Quran speaks of two angels, Harut and Marut, who descended to Babylon. They taught magic to humanity, not as a gift, but as a test, warning that those who practiced it would fall into ruin. Still, people sought them out, desperate for power, eager to command spirits and bend reality. Thus, Arabian witchcraft became forever entwined with the Djinn, beings feared and revered, invoked and forbidden. Even today, whispers of them remain. Tales of desert witches binding Djinn in rings, bottles, and knots echo the same ancient fear, that to touch the world of spirits is to court forces that can never truly be controlled. And so, as the Arabian winds carried these beliefs onward, the story of witchcraft grew darker, more complex, preparing the way for new worlds of sorcery where Egypt's shadows and Greece's oracles awaited. From the scorching deserts where the Djinn whispered in shadows, the journey of witchcraft drifts eastward into the ancient lands of South Asia, a world of temples, sacred rivers, and timeless rituals. Here, witchcraft was never a single, forbidden practice. It was a spectrum, a living blend of healing, devotion, fear, and power. In the villages and forests of India, magic was woven into daily life. It appeared in the chants of mantras, the drawing of sacred yantras, symbols, and the careful placement of offerings at crossroads and riverbanks. Every gesture carried meaning. Every ritual was a dialogue between the human and the unseen. At its heart lay tantric magic, a path both feared and revered. Tantrics believed that through sacred sounds, gestures, and offerings, one could awaken cosmic forces. Some sought enlightenment and healing, blessings of fertility, protection from disease, or harmony in the household. Others strayed into darker practices, twisting these powers to bind enemies, summon spirits, or inflict curses that lingered like shadows over generations. The figure of the witch in South Asia was paradoxical. She was a healer, a woman who knew the herbs that soothed fever, the chants that calmed restless spirits, the rituals that brought rain. Yet she was also feared as a curse bringer, accused of sending sickness, infertility, or misfortune with just a glance. Villagers might seek her aid at night, only to condemn her at dawn when tragedy struck. Deep within this culture was the unbroken belief in spirits and ancestral powers. To many, the dead never truly left. Ghosts, known as boots or pretes, wandered the earth, restless until appeased with food, fire, or prayer. Ancestral blessings could shield the living, but ancestral anger could haunt entire families. Witchcraft became the mediator between these worlds, a way to pacify, command, or protect against the unseen. And then there were the legends of the dakini. In both Hindu and Buddhist lore, these female entities hovered between the mystical and the terrifying, sometimes depicted as sky-dancing spirits of wisdom, guiding seekers toward enlightenment, other times as flesh-eating demons haunting cremation grounds and feeding on fear. To encounter a dakini was to face the raw, untamed energy of the spirit world, a reminder that power could bless or it could destroy. Thus, in South Asia, witchcraft was never just sorcery. It was philosophy, faith, and fear entangled together, a sacred science to some, a forbidden danger to others, and like the great rivers of the land, its currents spread far and wide, flowing into every story, every ritual, every whispered prayer against the darkness. From these mystic lands, the tale of witchcraft would move again, westward into the heart of Egypt, where magic was not merely feared, but enshrined as a pillar of civilization itself. From the temples of India to the deserts of Arabia, from Persia's fire altars to Greece's shadowed oracles, witchcraft was never confined. It moved, it traveled, just as people traveled. At the heart of this exchange stood the Silk Road, not just a path for silk, spices, and gold, but also for ideas, stories, and sorcery. Along the dusty roads that connected Asia, the Middle East, and Europe, merchants carried more than goods. Hidden in their bags were amulets to ward off curses, scrolls inscribed with forbidden words, and whispered spells traded like secret currency between cultures. A Greek traveler might bring tales of the evil eye to an Indian market, where it blended with local charms of turmeric and ash meant to ward off misfortune. A Persian magus might teach a trader the rites of invoking cosmic duality, light and dark, only for those same symbols to be reinterpreted in an Arabian desert ritual to bind Djinn. In Buddhist monasteries, mantras for protection mingled with Egyptian practices of talismans, each adapting and reshaping itself in new lands. What emerged from these crossroads was a mosaic of magic. Greek necromancy merging with Persian astrology, Indian tantric rituals blending with Arab spirit lore, and local superstitions shaping them all. It was here that witchcraft ceased to be a single tradition and became a shared human language of power, fear, and hope. And while cultures often mistrusted one another's gods, they all feared the same shadows: the curse, the evil eye, possession, the restless dead. Across civilizations, people turned to charms, amulets, and rituals of protection, not because they belonged to one faith or nation, but because these fears were universal. By the time the Silk Road reached its golden age, witchcraft was no longer the secret of one people. It had become something greater, a web of belief that stretched across continents, reshaping itself in every village, every temple, every whispered incantation against the dark. And so, as the ancient world traded goods and knowledge, it also traded shadows, shadows that never truly died, shadows that would grow, evolve, and haunt the centuries that followed. From the clay tablets of Babylon to the deserts of Arabia, from Persia's Magi to India's tantric witches, sorcery in Asia and the Middle East was never a simple superstition. It was a language of power, of fear, of hope, and of forbidden knowledge. And yet, all of these rites, all of these whispered incantations, carried within them one dark promise: the power to bend not only the living, but the dead. For in our next journey, we descend deeper still into the shadowed world of necromancy, a place where witches did not merely call upon spirits, they commanded the dead.